The morning shift bell echoed through the corridors of Vertex 9, the largest military training station in the Outer Rim. Cadet Danny Morrison adjusted his uniform collar for the third time, his fingers trembling slightly. Today was the final combat assessment, and rumors had been flying through the dormitories all week about something unusual planned for their class. "Stop fidgeting," Vera Collins whispered beside him. The tall blonde cadet stood perfectly still, her eyes fixed forward as their instructor approached. "You look nervous?" "I am nervous," Danny admitted quietly. Around them, 60 cadets from 12 different species stood in formation on the training deck. The Kryn cadets clicked their mandibles softly, their insectoid bodies twitching with anticipation. The Thaler students glowed faintly, their crystalline skin refracting the overhead lights into rainbow patterns. Instructor Lisa Grant walked to the center of the deck, her boots clicking against the metal floor. She was a Dorvan, her blue-gray skin marked with the service stripes of 20 years in the Galactic Defense Force. Her four eyes scanned the assembled cadets with practiced efficiency. "Cadets, attention!" she called out. The room fell silent instantly. "Your final combat assessment will proceed differently than in previous years. Command has approved a special evaluator to test your readiness for active duty." A ripple of whispers spread through the formation. Danny exchanged a glance with Vera. Special evaluators usually meant retired generals or combat veterans from the Great Wars. He had studied for weeks, memorizing battle tactics and defensive formations. "The evaluator arrives in 10 minutes, Lisa continued. "You will show proper respect and follow all instructions without question. This assessment will determine your final placement in the Defense Force. Some of you will serve on flagships, others will guard supply routes. Your performance today decides your future." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the cadets once more. "I have been informed that several of you have been spreading rumors about today's evaluator. Let me be clear, you know nothing. Assumptions will fail you. Prepare yourselves." With that, she turned sharply and left the deck. The whispers erupted into full conversations the moment she disappeared through the doorway. Za, a Kryn cadet who stood near Danny, leaned closer with his triangular head tilted. "I heard it is General Krax," Jix buzzed, his translator rendering his speech into Standard Galactic, "the hero of the Borderland campaign." No, Torval interrupted, his crystalline body humming with excitement. "My cousin serves on the command station. He said they brought in a combat specialist from the inner systems, someone who trains the elite forces." Danny listened but said nothing. He had learned early in his academy training that rumors rarely matched reality. Better to wait and see than to build expectations that would only distract him during the assessment. The minutes crawled by slowly. Danny ran through mental exercises, reviewing hand-to-hand combat sequences and tactical responses. Beside him, Vera stood motionless, her breathing steady and controlled. She had always been better at managing pre-assessment anxiety. The deck doors opened with a soft hiss. Every cadet's attention snapped to the entrance. What walked through surprised nearly everyone. A single human entered the training deck. He was not wearing a general's uniform or the formal dress of a high-ranking official. Instead, he wore simple gray combat fatigues with no rank insignia visible. He appeared to be in his 50s, with short brown hair streaked with gray and weathered skin that spoke of years spent under various suns. His eyes were calm, almost casual, as they swept across the assembled cadets. He walked with an easy stride, his hands relaxed at his sides. There was nothing threatening about his appearance, nothing that suggested the legendary warrior the rumors had promised. Disappointment flickered across several alien faces. A few Kryn cadets clicked their mandibles in what Danny recognized as dismissive humor. Torval's glow dimmed slightly. The human stopped in the center of the deck, exactly where Instructor Lisa had stood minutes before. He looked at the cadets for a long moment, saying nothing. Then he smiled, just slightly. "My name is Marcus Webb," he said, his voice carrying clearly across the deck without shouting. "I am here to evaluate your combat readiness. We will begin shortly." Zhai leaned toward Danny again. "This is the special evaluator?" "He is just a human. No offense to you, Danny, but humans are not known for combat superiority. You lack the natural weapons of a Kryn or the energy projection of a Thaler." Danny wanted to respond, but movement on the deck caught his attention. One of the Kryn cadets, a large warrior named Scrix, stepped forward from the formation. "Evaluator Webb, with respect, perhaps there has been an error. We were expecting someone with significant combat credentials." Marcus turned to face Scrix directly. His expression remained calm, almost friendly. "You want to see credentials?" "It would ease concerns," Scrix replied, his mandibles clicking. Marcus nodded slowly. Reasonable request. He looked around the deck, his eyes settling on Danny. Cadet Morrison, you are carrying a standard training scanner, correct? Danny blinked in surprise at being addressed directly. Yes, sir. Fire a scanner bolt at me. Aim for center mass. The request sent shocked murmurs through the formation. Scanner bolts were not weapons, but they traveled at significant speed to gather tactical data. They were used to tag targets during training exercises. Firing one at an evaluator seemed completely inappropriate. Sir, I cannot... Danny began. That is an order, Cadet, Marcus said calmly. Fire the scanner bolt. Danny hesitated only a moment longer, then raised his scanner device. He aimed carefully at Marcus's chest and squeezed the trigger. The bolt shot forward, a blue streak of energy moving faster than most eyes could track. What happened next made every cadet on the deck freeze in shock. Marcus's hand moved in a blur. His right arm swept upward and across his body in one smooth motion. His fingers closed around the scanner bolt mid-flight, plucking it from the air as casually as someone might catch a tossed ball. The energy crackled briefly in his grip before settling. The entire deck fell into absolute silence. Marcus examined the scanner bolt, reading the data display on its side. He looked up at Danny with that same slight smile. Birth of the Earth, he said clearly. Try again. Danny's mind reeled. The scanner bolt had registered the age of whatever it touched through molecular analysis. Birth of the Earth meant the bolt had recorded approximately 4.5 billion years of data compression in the split second Marcus had held it. That was impossible. The human reaction time required to catch something moving that fast should not exist. Scrix's mandibles hung open. Torval's crystalline body had gone completely dim. Even Vera stood with her mouth slightly open, her usual composure shattered. Marcus tossed the scanner bolt back to Danny, who caught it clumsily. Humans evolved on a high-gravity world, Marcus explained to the silent cadets. We are persistence hunters. Our ancestors chased prey for days across open plains. We developed specific advantages, endurance, pattern recognition, and reaction timing, refined by millions of years of survival pressure. He walked slowly along the front row of cadets, making eye contact with each one. You assume combat superiority comes from natural weapons or technological advantages. Sometimes it comes from something simpler. Sometimes it comes from refusing to stop, from adapting faster than your opponent, from seeing patterns they miss. Marcus returned to the center of the deck. Now then, shall we begin your assessment? Marcus stood in the center of the training deck, his hands clasped behind his back. The cadets remained frozen in formation, still processing what they had witnessed. The casual demonstration had shattered their assumptions about the human evaluator in a matter of seconds. The assessment will test your ability to adapt under pressure, Marcus announced. You will work in mixed species teams. Combat scenarios rarely allow you to choose your companions, so neither will I. Instructor Lisa returned to the deck carrying a data tablet. She handed it to Marcus without a word, though Danny noticed a brief smile on her face. She had known what was coming. Marcus studied the tablet, then began calling names. Morrison Collins, Zix, Torval, you are Team 1. He continued through the list, assembling teams of 4 cadets each, deliberately mixing species and skill sets. Within minutes, 15 teams stood ready. Danny found himself standing with Vera, the Kryn warrior Jegs, and the Thaler student Torval. The combination seemed random, but Danny suspected Marcus had chosen more carefully than it appeared. Each team will enter the combat maze, Marcus explained, gesturing to the far end of the training deck. Large doors began to open, revealing darkness beyond. The scenario is simple. Navigate from entry to exit while completing 3 objectives. Environmental hazards will be active. Sensors will be limited. You will have 30 minutes. Zit clicked his mandibles nervously. What are the 3 objectives? You will discover them inside, Marcus replied. That is part of the test. Torval's crystalline body pulsed with dim light. This seems designed to favor certain species over others. How is that fair? Marcus walked closer to their team, his expression thoughtful. Combat is never fair, Cadet. Enemies do not adjust their tactics to accommodate your weaknesses. They exploit them. This assessment determines whether you can succeed when conditions are not ideal. He stepped back and addressed all the teams. You will enter 1 team at a time. Your performance will be measured not just on completion, but on efficiency, cooperation, and adaptation. Team 1, you are first. Proceed to the entrance. Danny led his team toward the open doors, his heart pounding. As they approached, he could see the maze was 3-dimensional, with platforms at different heights, narrow walkways, and what appeared to be shifting obstacles. The interior lighting was minimal, creating pools of shadow between dim emergency lights. "Good luck, cadets," Marcus said from behind them. There was something in his tone that suggested they would need it. The doors closed behind Team 1 with a heavy metallic thud. Darkness surrounded them except for the emergency lights creating small circles of visibility. Danny activated his wrist scanner and immediately noticed the problem. "Sensors are almost useless," he reported. "Maximum range is 3 meters. "This is absurd," Jigs buzzed, his antennae twitching. "My species relies on electromagnetic sense. It is being blocked." Torval tried to increase his luminescence to light the way, but the maze seemed to absorb the light. "Energy-dampening fields are active. I cannot project properly." Vera moved to the edge of the first platform, peering into the darkness ahead. "Complaining wastes time. We have 30 minutes. Let us move." She was right. Danny took a breath and focused. Marcus had demonstrated something important with the scanner bolt. Humans had evolved specific advantages. Pattern recognition was one of them. He studied the visible portions of the maze, looking for clues. The platforms were arranged in a seemingly chaotic pattern, but Danny noticed something. The support beams followed a rhythm, appearing every 5 meters. The walkways, though narrow, had safety rails only on one side, and that side always faced the same direction. "Follow me," Danny said, stepping onto the first walkway. "Stay close and watch for my signals." The team moved forward cautiously. Within minutes, they encountered the first objective, a locked panel requiring a 3-digit code. No instructions were provided. "How are we supposed to know the code?" Torval asked, frustration evident in his humming voice. Vera examined the panel carefully. "Wait, look at the wear patterns on the number pad." "Re-buttons show more use than the others." Danny leaned in. She was right. The buttons for 2, 7, and 9 were slightly more worn. That gives us the numbers, but not the order. 6 possible combinations. "Try the simplest pattern first," Vera suggested. 2, 7, 9. Danny entered the code. Nothing happened. He tried again with 9, 7, 2. The panel beeped and slid open, revealing a glowing marker inside. "Objective 1 complete," an automated voice announced. Jug clicked in approval. "You noticed what I could not. Impressive." They pressed forward, navigating narrow bridges and climbing between platforms. The maze seemed designed to challenge every species differently. Sections with low ceilings troubled Jigs with his tall frame. Areas with loose grading affected Torval's crystalline feet. Tight spaces made Vera's broader shoulders a disadvantage. But the humans, Danny noticed, seemed to manage each obstacle with reasonable efficiency. Not the best at any single challenge, but capable enough at all of them. The second objective appeared 15 minutes into the assessment, a gap too wide to jump, with no visible bridge. "This is impossible," Torval stated flatly. "The distance is at least 4 meters. None of us can cross." Danny studied the gap carefully. On the far side, he could see another glowing marker, but Torval was correct. The distance was too great. He looked around, searching for alternative routes, and noticed something odd. The emergency lights on both sides of the gap were positioned at different heights. One was higher than the other by exactly half a meter. Danny thought about Marcus catching the scanner bolt. The human had read something invisible to everyone else. The trajectory, the timing, the exact moment to act. What if this gap had an invisible element too? "Vera, do you have any rope in your equipment kit?" Danny asked. "Standard climbing cord? Yes. Tied around my waist? I am going to test something." Ziggs and Torval watched with confusion as Vera secured the rope. Danny approached the edge of the gap and carefully extended 1 foot forward, out over the apparent emptiness. His boot landed on something solid. "An invisible bridge," Danny said, grinning. The height difference in the lights was the clue. They are marking the path. Using the lights as guides, Danny walked across the invisible platform. The others followed carefully, and they retrieved the second objective marker. "How did you know?" Ziegler asked, his translator conveying genuine curiosity. I did not know," Danny admitted. "But Marcus taught us something. Humans look for patterns." The lights were not random. Nothing in this maze is random. The final 10 minutes were the most challenging. The third objective required them to work together in perfect timing, climbing a vertical shaft where handholds appeared and disappeared in sequence. Jiz's climbing ability helped scout the route. Torval's residual luminescence, though dampened, marked safe holds. Vera's strength pulled Danny up when his grip failed. They reached the exit with 2 minutes remaining. As they emerged from the maze, sweating and exhausted, they found Marcus waiting with instructor Lisa. He held a data tablet showing their performance metrics. 18 minutes, 40 seconds, Marcus read aloud. All 3 objectives completed. Minimal errors. Excellent adaptation. Danny straightened despite his fatigue. Thank you, sir. Marcus nodded, then gestured to the viewing screen behind him. Watch the other teams. You will learn something important. Over the next hours, they watched as other teams attempted the maze. The Kryn-heavy teams relied on strength and became frustrated when brute force failed. Thaler-dominant teams tried to overpower the energy dampening and exhausted themselves. Teams that lacked humans struggled with the pattern recognition challenges, but the teams that succeeded shared one thing. They adapted. They learned to use each member's strengths, abandoned tactics that failed quickly, and kept moving forward. By the time the final team finished, only 6 teams had completed all 3 objectives. Team 1 had the fastest time. Marcus addressed the assembled cadets, his voice carrying authority without shouting. Today you learned something the galaxy discovered 15 years ago. Humans are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest, the most technologically advanced, or the most naturally gifted in combat. He paused, his calm eyes sweeping across every cadet. But we are perhaps the most adaptable. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us in every season. We learned to persist, to recognize patterns, to never stop moving forward. Those traits matter in combat as much as any natural weapon. Danny felt pride swell in his chest, but also understanding. This was not about human superiority. It was about recognizing what each species brought to the galactic community. The evening gathered quietly over verdicts. 9 Station. After the intense assessment, most cadets had retreated to their quarters to rest, but a group of 30 had assembled in the common recreation area. They sat in a loose circle on the floor and benches, their attention focused on Marcus Webb, who sat comfortably in a simple chair at the center. Danny sat between Vera and Jeeks, still processing everything from the day's assessment. The maze had challenged him in ways classroom training never had. More importantly, it had revealed something about cooperation he had not fully understood before. Evaluator Webb, Torval spoke up, his crystalline form reflecting the soft lighting. You said the galaxy learned about human adaptation 15 years ago. Many of us have heard stories, but the details are classified in Academy records. Would you share what happened? Marcus studied the assembled cadets for a long moment. His weathered face showed neither pride nor reluctance, just quiet consideration. Finally, he leaned back in his chair and nodded. 15 years ago, I was a lieutenant, Marcus began, his voice carrying easily through the quiet room. I served aboard a diplomatic vessel called the Horizon's Hope. Our mission was to establish trade relations with frontier colonies in the Outer Reach. Nothing glamorous, just standard diplomatic work. He paused, and Danny noticed a distant look in the human's eyes, as if he were seeing something far away. Our captain was Helen Price, a career diplomat who believed strongly in peaceful solutions. Our chief engineer was Kyle Foster, brilliant with technology but terrible at chess. Our medical officer was Amy Chen, who could diagnose 17 different species but could not cook to save her life. Several cadets chuckled softly. Marcus smiled briefly before continuing. We also carried representatives from 6 other species. A Dwarven trade negotiator, 2 Kryn cultural attachés, a Thaler energy specialist, and others. 23 crew members total. We were heading to meet with colony representatives when our sensors detected a distress signal. Marcus stood and walked slowly as he spoke, his hands clasped behind his back. Captain Price ordered us to investigate. That decision changed everything. The distress signal was genuine, but it was also bait. When we arrived to help, 6 friend warships surrounded us. Jizz, antennae shot upright. The Vren? But they are silicon-based warriors. They do not take prisoners. Correct, Marcus confirmed. The Vren were not part of the Galactic Coalition then. They viewed other species as weak, unworthy of respect. They raided frontier settlements for resources and technology. Their boarding parties were legendary for their ruthlessness. The room had fallen completely silent. Danny found himself leaning forward, hanging on every word. The Vren commander, Shekskar, contacted our ship. He demanded our cargo, our technology, and our vessel. Captain Price tried to negotiate, but the Vren fired on us anyway. Not to destroy us outright, but to disable us. They wanted the ship intact. Marcus stopped walking and faced the cadets. Their weapons took out our main power, our engines, and our long-range communications. Life support switched to emergency backup. We were dead in space, 5 days' travel from the nearest Coalition patrol route. What did you do? A young human cadet asked from the back. We survived, Marcus said simply. Captain Price ordered everyone to emergency stations. Kyle began rationing power to extend life support as long as possible. Amy prepared the medical bay for potential casualties. I was assigned to security, protecting our most sensitive systems from Vren boarding parties. He sat back down, his expression growing more serious. The Vren did not board immediately. Shekskar was methodical. He waited, letting our life support degrade. The temperature dropped first. Then the air began to thin as recycling systems struggled with minimal power. Torval's glow dimmed with concern. That must have been difficult for all species aboard. It was catastrophic for most of them, Marcus agreed quietly. The Dorvan negotiator could not function properly in cold temperatures. His species evolved on a hot, humid world. The Krinotache struggled with the thinning air. They need higher oxygen levels than most species. The Thaler's specialist began to dim, his energy reserves depleting without proper environmental support. Marcus looked around the circle of cadets. But the 4 humans aboard? We were uncomfortable, cold, and breathing thin air. But we had evolved on Earth, where ice ages happened, where high altitude existed, where survival meant enduring harsh conditions. We kept working. Danny felt a chill run down his spine, and not from the temperature in the recreation area. Kyle maintained the power systems, working 18-hour shifts in freezing engineering sections. Amy cared for crew members suffering from environmental stress, using her own body heat to keep patients stable. Captain Price coordinated everything, refusing to sleep more than 2 hours at a time. And I waited. Waited for what? She asked. For the Vren to make their move, Marcus replied. Shekskar sent a boarding party on the 3rd day. 4 Vren warriors, each standing over 2 meters tall, their silicon-based bodies nearly impervious to standard weapons. They cut through our outer airlock and began moving through the ship. Marcus's voice remained calm, but Danny could hear the weight of memory behind the words. I positioned myself in the corridor leading to our computer core. The Vren wanted our navigation data, our diplomatic codes. I could not let them reach it. You faced 4 Ven warriors alone? Vera asked, her eyes wide. I did not face them, Marcus corrected gently. I waited for them. There is a difference. He stood again and demonstrated, moving to an open space. The corridor was narrow, only wide enough for 1 Vren at a time. I positioned myself at a junction where I could see them coming, but where shadows hid my exact location. Then I did what humans do best. I waited patiently. For how long? Another cadet asked. 17 hours. The number hung in the air like a physical presence. 17 hours of absolute stillness, waiting in a freezing corridor while life support failed around him. The Vren moved slowly through the ship, methodical and thorough. They checked every room, every access point. But I knew they would come to the computer core eventually, so I stood in that corridor barely breathing, conserving my energy, watching. Marcus's eyes seemed to look through the walls of the recreation area. My legs went numb after 8 hours. My fingers lost feeling after 12. The cold was intense. The air so thin I had to breathe slowly and carefully. But I remembered something my grandfather taught me when I was young. He looked directly at Danny. He was a hunter in North America back on Earth. He taught me that the animal that wins is not always the strongest or the fastest. It is the one that refuses to quit. Humans hunted prey by following them for days, never stopping, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Persistence is in our blood. The cadets sat transfixed. Even Instructor Lisa, who had entered quietly during the story, stood listening by the doorway. When the Vren finally reached my corridor, they were confident. They had encountered no resistance. They expected none. The first warrior stepped into the junction, his weapon raised. Marcus moved suddenly, his hand snapping out in a demonstration. I caught his weapon mid-swing, just like I caught that scanner bolt today. 17 hours of waiting for one perfect moment of action. The Vren was so surprised that his grip loosened. I took the weapon and used it to disable the power to their combat suits. You defeated 4 Vren warriors? Jik asked in disbelief. I did not defeat them, Marcus said carefully. I surprised them, took their technological advantage, and then I negotiated. I told them I had been waiting in that corridor for 17 hours without food, water, or warmth. I told them I could wait another 17 if needed. I told them that humans do not quit. He smiled slightly at the memory. Shekskar contacted me directly through the comm system. He asked how I had survived so long in those conditions. I told him about Earth, about evolution, about persistence hunting. Then I offered a deal, safe passage for my crew in exchange for non-military technology sharing. And he agreed? Torval asked. He did more than agree, Marcus replied. He ordered his warriors to stand down. He had his engineers help restore our life support. Then he and I sat in the ship's galley for 3 hours talking about our species, our worlds, our ways of war. Marcus returned to his seat. Shekskar said something I have never forgotten. He told me the Vren respect strength and they had seen human bodies as weak, but they had never encountered a species that could simply refuse to break. He said patience was a weapon they had not considered. The recreation area remained silent for a long moment. Finally, Danny spoke up. Is that why the Vren joined the Galactic Coalition? It was the beginning, Marcus acknowledged. That encounter started conversations. Within 3 years, the Vren signed the cooperation treaties. Shekskar became an ambassador. He credits that meeting with changing his understanding of what makes a species worthy of respect. Marcus looked around at each cadet. Today's assessment was not about proving humans are superior. It was about showing you that every species has unique strengths. The key to survival, to success, to building something better than war, is recognizing those strengths and using them together. He stood, signaling the story was complete. Get some rest, cadets. Tomorrow we will discuss your individual performances. As Marcus left the recreation area, the cadets remained seated, processing what they had heard. Danny looked at his mixed-species team, at Vera and Jigs and Torval, and understood something fundamental had changed. They were not just classmates anymore. They were warriors learning to fight the same war from different angles, each bringing something irreplaceable to the battle. 3 days after Marcus's story, the Academy director made an announcement that sent waves of concern through the cadet population. A joint training exercise had been approved with Wren observers participating directly. The news spread quickly through the corridors and common areas, creating heated debates among students of different species. Danny sat in the cafeteria with his team, picking at his breakfast while listening to the conversations around them. Most cadets were uncomfortable with the idea. Despite the peace treaties and cooperation agreements, the Vren's reputation as fierce warriors still created unease. This is a terrible idea, a Dorvan cadet said loudly from a nearby table. The Vren cannot be trusted in training scenarios. Their culture values aggression above everything else. Zijis clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. The treaties have held for 12 years. Perhaps it is time we learn to work together properly. Easy for you to say, Torval replied, his crystalline body pulsing with agitated light. Your species did not lose colonies to Vren raids. Vera set down her fork firmly. Neither did mine, but holding on to past conflicts serves no purpose. The galaxy changes. We change with it or become irrelevant. Before the debate could continue, Instructor Lisa entered the cafeteria and approached their table directly. Morrison, Collins, Lang. Report to Briefing Room 7 immediately. You have been selected for the joint exercise. Danny's stomach tightened. He exchanged glances with Vera, who appeared calm as always, and with Kevin Lang, another human cadet who had performed well in recent assessments. Kevin was shorter than Danny, with red hair and quick nervous energy that contrasted with Vera's steady composure. They found Marcus waiting in the briefing room along with Academy Director Crix, a distinguished Thaler whose long service record was legendary. On the large view screen behind them, 3 Vren warriors appeared via live transmission. Their silicon-based bodies gleamed under harsh lighting, their angular features and towering frames creating an intimidating presence even through a screen. The central Vren stepped forward slightly. I am Sheksnor, combat instructor for Vren Youth Warriors. These are my students, Krell and Tex. We have been assigned to participate in your joint training exercise. Marcus nodded respectfully. This is Cadet Morrison, Cadet Collins, and Cadet Lang. They will represent the human contingent. Sheksnor's dark eyes studied each human cadet carefully. You are young, untested. This concerns me. They are cadets, Marcus replied calmly. As are your students. This exercise is designed for learning, not for proving dominance. The Vren instructor seemed to consider this. Very well. What is the scenario? Director Crix activated a holographic display showing a detailed moon-based layout. The scenario simulates a catastrophic system failure at Research Station Ganymede. Life support is failing in cascading stages. Gravity stabilizers are malfunctioning. Oxygen recycling has been compromised. Both teams will enter the facility simultaneously from different access points. Your objective is to reach the central core and restore primary systems before complete failure occurs. What is the time limit? Krell asked, his deep voice resonating through the speakers. 90 minutes from initial entry, Crix replied. After that, the scenario considers all personnel lost. Shexnor's expression shifted into what might have been a smile. This favors species with environmental resilience. Vren can survive extended periods in hostile conditions. So can humans, Marcus said quietly. That is precisely why this exercise was designed this way. The meeting concluded with technical details and safety protocols. The exercise would take place in 2 days, giving both teams time to prepare. As the transmission ended and the Vren disappeared from the screen, Marcus turned to face the 3 human cadets. I volunteered you 3 specifically, he told them. Morrison, you demonstrated excellent pattern recognition in the maze assessment. Collins, your ability to maintain composure under pressure is exceptional. Lang, your technical knowledge of life support system is among the best in your class. Kevin shifted nervously. Sir, the Vren are experienced warriors. Even their students have more combat training than we do. This is not about combat, Marcus corrected. This is about endurance, adaptation, and persistence. Remember what I taught you. Play to your strengths. The next 2 days passed in intensive preparation. Danny studied the station layouts until he could navigate them in his sleep. Vera practiced emergency repair procedures. Kevin memorized every possible failure point in life support systems and their solutions. On the morning of the exercise, they suited up in standard environmental gear and boarded the transport to the training facility. The simulated moon base was located in one of Vertex's, 9's massive training modules, a fully functional replica of an actual research station. When they arrived, the Vren team was already there. Seeing them in person was different from the transmission. Shexnor stood nearly 2.5 meters tall, his silicon body covered in natural armor plating. His students were slightly smaller, but no less imposing. Their eyes evaluated the human cadets with obvious skepticism. You seem fragile, Thex observed, his translator rendering his speech into standard Galactic. This environment will break you quickly. Danny felt a flash of irritation, but remembered Marcus's calm demeanor. We will see. The teams entered the facility through opposite airlocks. Immediately, Danny felt the effects of the scenario. The gravity fluctuated, creating moments of weightlessness followed by sudden pulls that required constant balance adjustment. The temperature was dropping steadily, frost forming on metal surfaces. Emergency lights flickered, creating disorienting shadows. Life support at 60% and falling, Kevin reported, checking his wrist scanner. We have maybe 70 minutes before oxygen becomes critically low. They moved through the corridors quickly but carefully. The facility was designed like a maze, with multiple paths to the central core but many dead ends and hazardous sections. Danny took point, using his pattern recognition to identify the most efficient route. 15 minutes in, they encountered their first major obstacle. A corridor had depressurized completely, the airlock doors sealed. Going around would cost valuable time. The Vren would just force their way through, Vera observed. Their bodies can handle brief vacuum exposure. We cannot, Kevin said. We need another approach. Danny studied the corridor layout on his scanner. There was a maintenance shaft that ran parallel to the sealed section. It would be tight, potentially claustrophobic, but it would save time. Follow me, he said, prying open the maintenance access panel. They crawled through the narrow shaft, their breathing loud in the confined space. The temperature was even colder here, their breath forming clouds. Danny's muscles ached from the awkward position, but he kept moving forward. Persistence, he reminded himself. Just keep moving. They emerged on the other side ahead of schedule, but the facility was deteriorating faster than projected. The gravity fluctuations became more severe. Entire sections lost lighting completely. At the 40-minute mark, they encountered the Vren team in a large junction chamber. Both teams stopped, assessing each other. The Vren looked surprisingly fatigued. Their natural resilience was being tested by the constantly changing conditions. Your path was faster, Shexnor acknowledged, breathing heavily. But the route ahead splits. Multiple paths to the core. We do not know which is correct. Danny looked at the junction carefully. There were 4 possible corridors, each looking identical. But he noticed something the others had missed. One corridor had slightly more frost accumulation than the others, suggesting more airflow, which would indicate connection to active systems. That one, Danny pointed. The frost pattern shows it leads toward functioning equipment. Shexnor studied the frost, then nodded slowly. Your observation is correct. Perhaps we should proceed together. 2 teams can cover more ground and solve problems faster. It was an unexpected offer, but Marcus's words echoed in Danny's mind. This was about cooperation, not competition. Agreed, Danny said. The combined team moved forward with new efficiency. When they encountered a locked security door, the Vren provided strength to force it open. When environmental sensors needed repair, Kevin's technical knowledge saved crucial minutes. When precise timing was required to cross a section with cycling gravity, Vera's steady composure kept everyone coordinated. They reached the central core with 12 minutes remaining. The control systems were damaged, but repairable. Kevin and Thex worked together, the humans' knowledge of systems combining with the Vren's ability to withstand electrical discharges as they hot-wired damaged circuits. With 4 minutes to spare, primary systems came back online. Life support stabilized, gravity normalized, and lighting restored to full power. The exercise completion signal echoed through the facility. Both teams stood in the control room, exhausted but successful. Shexnor approached Danny directly, his massive frame towering over the human cadet. Then, slowly, he extended his hand in the human gesture of respect. "Your father told me humans do not quit. I see this as true. You have earned respect today." Danny shook the Vren's hand, feeling the rough silicon texture. "Your strength made the difference in several critical moments. We could not have succeeded alone." Back in the debriefing room, Marcus stood with Director Crix, reviewing the performance data. When both teams entered, he smiled with genuine pride. "You accomplished something important today," Marcus told them. "Not just completing the exercise, but proving that former enemies can become effective allies. The Vren learned patience from watching humans persist. Humans learned that strength has many forms. Together, you were better than either team could have been separately." Shexnor nodded slowly. "My instructor Shexkar spoke truth about humans. They possess a weapon we did not value. They refuse to accept defeat. This is strength worthy of alliance." The graduation ceremony took place 6 weeks after the joint exercise with the Vren. The main assembly hall of Vertex's 9 had been transformed for the occasion, with flags representing every species in the Galactic Coalition hanging from the high ceiling. Families had traveled from across the galaxy to witness their children complete their training and receive their assignments. Danny stood in formation with his graduating class wearing the formal dress uniform of a Galactic Defense Force officer for the first time. The dark blue fabric felt stiff and unfamiliar, but he wore it with pride. Beside him, Vera stood perfectly still as always, while Kevin fidgeted nervously with his sleeves. The ceremony had already progressed through several speeches from Academy officials. Director Crix had spoken about duty and honor. Instructor Lisa had congratulated the cadets on their achievements. Now, as the special guest speaker, Marcus Webb walked to the podium. He looked different in his formal uniform, the insignia of a senior combat instructor visible on his collar. But his eyes held the same calm awareness Danny had noticed during their first meeting. Marcus surveyed the assembled cadets, families, and officials before speaking. "When I arrived at this academy 2 months ago, many of you had assumptions about what makes a warrior effective," Marcus began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. "Some believed superior technology was the answer.
Others trusted in natural physical advantages.
A few thought tactical aggression was the path to victory." He paused, letting his words settle. "The assessments and exercises you completed were designed to challenge those assumptions. Not to prove them wrong, but to expand your understanding of what strength truly means." Marcus gestured to the flags overhead. Every species represented here evolved under different conditions. The Kryn developed incredible strength and resilience on a high-pressure world. The Thaler learned to manipulate energy on a planet bathed in radiation. The Dorvan mastered adaptation on a world of extreme climate variations. His gaze swept across the human cadets. "And humans evolved on Earth, a world that tested us in every possible way. Ice ages forced us to persist. Predators forced us to become clever. Scarcity forced us to cooperate. We are not the strongest species, not the fastest, not the most technologically advanced." Danny noticed several alien cadets leaning forward, listening intently. "But we developed something essential," Marcus continued. "We learned to recognize patterns in chaos. We learned to endure when conditions became hostile. We learned that persistence often matters more than immediate power. Most importantly, we learned that adaptation is survival." Marcus stepped away from the podium, moving closer to the cadets. "Some of you experienced this directly during the joint exercise with the Vren. Cadet Morrison, Cadet Collins, Cadet Lang, please step forward." Danny felt his heart race as he moved out of formation with Vera and Kevin. They approached the podium where Marcus waited. Director Crix joined them, carrying 3 commendation medals. "These cadets demonstrated exemplary performance under challenging conditions," Crix announced. "They succeeded not through individual excellence alone, but through cooperation with former adversaries. They proved that the future of galactic defense depends on understanding and utilizing the strengths of all species." As Crix pinned the medals to their uniforms, Danny caught sight of his parents in the audience. His mother was crying, his father beaming with pride. The moment felt surreal, like something from a dream. They returned to formation, and Marcus resumed his speech. The galaxy faces challenges that no single species can overcome alone. Resource conflicts, territorial disputes, unknown threats from unexplored regions. We need warriors who understand that cooperation is not weakness. It is our greatest strength. He looked directly at the graduating class. You are the new generation. You will serve on ships crewed by multiple species. You will face problems that require diverse solutions. You will represent not just your homeworlds, but the promise of what we can achieve together. Marcus returned to the podium and pulled out a small object from his pocket. Danny recognized it immediately, a scanner bolt. On my first day here, I caught one of these mid-flight, Marcus said, holding it up for everyone to see. The scanner read my age in Earth years, approximately 53. But if I could program it differently, do you know what I would want it to read? The hall remained silent, waiting. Present day, Marcus said simply. Because that is what matters. Not where we came from, not what advantages or disadvantages our evolution provided. What matters is what we do now, in this moment, to build something better than what existed before. He set the scanner bolt on the podium. Today you graduate as officers in the Galactic Defense Force. Some of you will serve on exploration vessels, pushing the boundaries of known space. Others will guard trade routes, protecting the economic foundation of our coalition. Some will become instructors, passing knowledge to the next generation. Marcus smiled slightly. And a few of you will do things no one has imagined yet, because that is what this generation does. You adapt. You persist. You refuse to accept that problems are unsolvable. The ceremony continued with the formal reading of assignments. Danny learned he would serve aboard the exploration vessel Pathfinder, part of a crew mapping uncharted systems in the Galactic Rim. Vera received assignment to the Diplomatic Corps, where her composure and judgment would serve treaty negotiations. Kevin was assigned to tactical research, developing new approaches to life support systems for extended missions. Jig received assignment to a defensive garrison, protecting frontier colonies. Torval would join an energy research team. Across species and specialties, the graduating class scattered to their various futures. After the ceremony concluded, families and friends gathered in the reception hall. Danny found Marcus standing near a viewport, looking out at the stars beyond the station. Sir, I wanted to thank you, Danny said, approaching carefully. Everything you taught us changed how I understand my role in the Defense Force. Marcus turned, and Danny saw warmth in the older man's eyes. You learned quickly, Morrison. That pattern recognition skill will serve you well on exploration missions. Unknown territories require someone who can read environments and identify threats before they become critical. What will you do now? Danny asked. Will you stay at the academy? For a while, Marcus replied. But the galaxy is large, and there are many cadets who need to learn what you learned. Eventually, I will move to another academy, another station, another group of young officers who think strength only comes from obvious advantages. He placed a hand on Danny's shoulder. Remember what I told you about the scanner bolt? We evolved from Earth's challenges, but we grow beyond them. You are not just a human serving in the Defense Force. You are a bridge between species, a proof that cooperation works. Danny nodded, feeling the weight of that responsibility, but also the excitement of it. Across the reception hall, Shex Nor entered with several other Vren representatives. The former adversaries had become regular visitors to the academy, participating in joint training and cultural exchange programs. Shex Nor approached Marcus directly, and the two shared the handclasp greeting that both species now recognized. Your students continue to impress, Shex Nor said. Krell has requested assignment to a joint human Vren patrol unit. He says he wants to learn more about persistence tactics. Marcus smiled. And human cadets are requesting Vren strength training programs? The exchange goes both ways. As it should, Shex Nor agreed. My instructor Shex Carr sends his regards. He says to remind you that patience is still the greatest weapon. Tell him I have not forgotten. As the evening progressed, Danny found himself in conversation with cadets from multiple species. They discussed their assignments, their hopes, their concerns about the future. The barriers that had existed at the beginning of their training had dissolved, replaced by mutual respect and genuine friendship. Kevin approached with a drink, grinning. Can you believe we actually graduated? I kept thinking they would realize they made a mistake accepting me. You earned your place, Vera said, joining them. Your technical knowledge saved the joint exercise. Without you, we would never have restored those systems in time. We all contributed, Kevin replied. That is what Marcus taught us. Individual brilliance matters less than team effectiveness. Danny looked around the reception hall. at the mixing of species and cultures, at the families celebrating together, at the graduates preparing to scatter across the galaxy. 6 months ago, he had arrived at this academy uncertain about his abilities, worried that humans would always be considered lesser among more physically impressive species. Now he understood. Humans brought something irreplaceable to the galactic community. Not dominance, not superiority, but persistence. The ability to adapt when conditions changed. The refusal to accept that challenges were insurmountable. The pattern recognition that came from millions of years of evolutionary pressure. As the reception wound down and families began departing, Danny took one last look at Vertex 9 through the viewport. This station had transformed him from a nervous cadet into a confident officer. Tomorrow, he would board a transport to his new assignment. The Pathfinder waited in orbit around a distant world, ready to explore the unknown. Marcus appeared beside him once more, following his gaze to the stars. "Nervous about your assignment?" the instructor asked. "Excited," Danny corrected. "The unknown does not frighten me anymore. You taught me to look for patterns, to persist when conditions are difficult, to trust in adaptation." "Good," Marcus said quietly. "The galaxy needs explorers who understand those principles. You will face challenges out there that no training can fully prepare you for. When that happens, remember, every species has gifts. Humanity's gift is we never stop moving forward." Danny nodded, committing those words to memory. "One more thing," Marcus added. The Scannerbolt demonstration was not just about catching something fast. It was about reading the moment, understanding the trajectory, acting with precision. You will face many moments in your career where timing matters more than power. Trust your instincts. They evolved over millions of years for exactly these situations. "I will, sir." "Thank you." Marcus extended his hand, and Danny shook it firmly. "Safe travels, Morrison. The galaxy is waiting." As Danny left the reception hall and headed toward his quarters to pack for departure, he felt ready. Ready for exploration, for challenges, for cooperation with species across the galaxy. Ready to prove that persistence mattered. Ready to be part of building something better than what existed before. The stars called, and he would answer. Just as humans always had, since the first moment they looked up at the night sky and refused to accept that the unknown was unreachable. He never stopped moving forward.